house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite. Sharing love in the metazone, light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Together we rise, together we inspire.
Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Planet B podcast, Overcoming the Dairy Deception. Dr. Rao, we're doing it once again.
I remember when I gave up milk, I was not sure that I could do it. But a week later, I realized it was not that hard at all. I can do this. It's not a problem. And I had this huge feeling of guilt lift off my shoulders. So I remember that very vividly.
So let's start with this. Another just a great quote at the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah, it's by Jennifer Schiaverini. She said, "Deception by an omission of the truth is as bad as a lie." In fact, someone else had said, and I didn't put that in, it's much stronger. And they had said, "A partial truth is the cowardliest of lies." Basically, when you tell a partial truth and you drill it into people's heads so that they think it's the only source of something, you're lying to people. But you can say you didn't lie. You can sleep at night saying, "I didn't lie at all. I just told them that
Yeah.
calcium is found in milk," which is true. When you drill that into people's heads over and over, children begin to think that calcium is only found in milk. So, which
Right.
means if you want calcium, and if you have a calcium deficiency, go drink milk. There are plant foods that have more calcium than dairy, and there are plant foods that have less calcium than dairy. So, calcium is abundant in plant foods. Dr. John McDougall said there has never been a calcium deficiency. Okay, so if you eat enough food on a natural diet, you will get enough calcium.
Right.
So that's the foundational truth on planet B.
Right at the beginning of your chapter, you highlight that the foundational myth on planet A, calcium is only found in dairy foods. And then the foundational truth on planet B, just as you stated, if you eat enough calories, you will get enough calcium.
It's if you eat enough calories on a natural diet. So this is why Dr. John McDougall said you will never find in hospitals people with calcium deficiency, even though they were eating enough food. Okay, you'll only find calcium deficiency in population where people are hungry.
What is calcium? It's something we hear, it's a word we hear a lot about, but people who aren't so well versed in nutritional terminology, we just know we need it. And we hear on a planet A these silly commercials about, milk, but what is it and where is it found and how does it improve our well-being?
Calcium is a mineral and it is used to construct bones in our body. So calcium carbonate is the basic structure of bones. And we need calcium to grow strong bones. But milk is not a very good source for that, mainly because milk is also acidic. So when you take acidic food in your body, the body has to neutralize it. Okay? Unless you take enough alkaline foods to neutralize it yourself, the body will leach the calcium from the bones because that is alkaline in order to neutralize the acid in the food. So this is why those who consume the most dairy have the most osteoporosis.
Wow.
So it's the opposite of what the milk industry has been drilling into our heads.
Right.
Yeah. They took their weakness and turned it into a strength, which is, great marketing tool to do
Right.
that. But you're just deceiving people.
And how are these different ways that on planet A our society has been led to believe this false myth of, cow's milk being this essential thing to get calcium?
Well, the idea of associating milk with calcium and then calcium with bones. So then, milk becomes good bones. Milk, it does the body good. I mean, all these marketing techniques that were used, trying to associate milk as a healthy food for human beings. Now, cow's milk has been used as a medicine in the past because it has certain medicinal qualities. Thousands of years ago, it used to have medicinal qualities, and it was a way to deliver fat-soluble medicine to people because it had fat in it, right? Anything that's medicine, when you take it in excess, will become poison. And it is not a food. See, cow's milk is a lactation secretion of a mammal who is 5 times our size, designed to make a baby grow from calf to cow in 18 months. Human babies grow from baby to adult in 18 years. there is a factor of 50 to 60 already there, right? How fast the cows need to grow compared to human beings. At our fastest growth pace, as a baby, that's when we grow the fastest. Why would you take something, a fluid that can make your body grow 50 to 60 times faster than it ever needs to grow, and consider that to be good food? It's the wrong fuel for our body.
And what are some of the side effects? Like the medical industry is coming more forward and there's more research going into the toxic effects of cow's milk. What are some of those toxic effects?
Oh, I used to have severe inflammation throughout my body. I had arthritis at the age of 40. I used to have sinus problems all the time. So it was common for me to have cold, and I used to take, so they said it was allergies. They gave me antihistamine. They were giving me painkillers for my arthritis. So I was taking painkillers on a daily basis and taking antihistamines, whenever I had the symptoms. And once I gave up cow's milk, they all disappeared. I mean, 100% cleared out. No
So simple.
arthritis whatsoever. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I rarely get colds these days. So it was always a reaction to drinking cow's milk, and I didn't know that. They call it lactose intolerance. It
Right.
literally is your body telling you this is not food, right? For the majority of people on earth, our body tells us this is not food.
Once we go to the doctor with our arthritis or inflammation, why is the doctor not asking us if we drink cow's milk and instead just offering us a prescription to try to mask the issue?
Well, they're taught that. They're taught,
Mm.
if you have these symptoms, deal it with this medicine. Okay? So they basically taught how to deal with symptoms. They don't do a lot of root cause analysis. If you think about how the modern healthcare system works, the doctor doesn't get paid if they spend more time with the patient. They get paid per visit, incentivized to get that patient out there as quickly as possible.
It's
Becomes
like
an
a
assembly line.
drive-through. It's
Yes,
like, yeah,
exactly.
it's like the drive-through.
Yeah, because then you don't ask questions, you don't go and get to know people and figure out exactly why these problems are happening to them. So a true doctor-patient relationship would involve knowing what the patient is going through, so you understand the lifestyle reasons why they're getting these problems.
Something that we're hearing more about now is lactose intolerance and how the research is showing that it's affecting a tremendous percentage of the global population. So can you share a little bit about that?
First of all, the framing itself is wrong in the sense that this is normal behavior. A mammal's body is
Right.
not supposed to digest mother's milk after we are weaned from the mother.
Hmm.
Okay, we're not supposed to digest this. So it's actually lactose normal behavior in our body. This is why the
Right.
vast majority of human beings have this so-called problem. It's not a problem, right? You're not supposed to be drinking milk as an adult. It's the other small percentage that can digest cow's milk. They are the abnormal ones, because they got some kind of genetic alteration because they were probably forced to rely on it for a long time. And slowly our genes adapt, saying, oh, if this is all I get, I better figure out how to deal with this.
Sounds like a world turned upside down.
Exactly. It's a world turned upside down when you say there is lactose intolerance in people. And the vast majority of people in the world have this normal behavior, which is that they cannot digest lactose after they're adults.
Do you think that cow's milk is in the sense that it's used to raising a cow so fast and cows get so much bigger than us at such a young age? There's something with cancer cells as well.
Well, it's been repeatedly established that the protein in cow's milk, casein, is extremely good at growing cancer cells.
Mm.
Okay. So cancer cells love that protein. They pick that up and multiply like crazy. Dr. Colin Campbell has done a lot of experiments and he has published about it, showing how just increasing the amount of animal protein, especially casein, beyond 20% in terms of calories is sufficient to accelerate cancer cell growth exponentially. And it doesn't happen when you increase plant protein to beyond 20%. It's not just the growth hormones, the protein itself can make your cancer cells grow. And then you add to that the growth hormones and you just pump it up. What is amazing is the human body is so good at overcoming these bad fuel you're putting into your body. And some are still working, right? I mean, we design cars, and if you in a car, if you go put the wrong fuel, it can break down and die. It won't work anymore. But the human body tolerates it for years.
In chapter 24, you highlight that not only is calcium found in cow's milk, but so is what you call a pus bath. Can you share a little bit about the acronym of pus bath?
Well, pus bath is an acronym for pus, urine, stools, blood, antibiotics, toxins, and hormones. And they are all found in every drop of cow's milk on the market, pretty much every drop. Because cow's milk is no longer a relationship between a cow and a human being. It's a relationship between a herd of cows and a human being. Because cow's milk gets all mixed up in the supply chain.
Right.
So it doesn't come from just one cow. It comes from multiple cows. In fact, a mixture of cows and buffaloes, all put together. Right. And then when you mix it all up, there will be some cows that have mastitis. In fact, the percentage of cows with mastitis is it's an infection of the udder. And that comes when you stick a machine on an udder and suck every little drop, every last drop of milk from a cow. The udder gets inflamed. And so that inflammation leads to pus coming out of it, the udder. Now, you're not supposed to have pus cells. But the government realizes that pus cells are inevitable in cow's milk. So they put a limit on how much pus cells can be there in cow's milk. And different countries have different limits. The US, it's like 4.4 million pus cells per teaspoon.
What?
Yeah. 4.4 million pus cells per teaspoon of milk. In Europe, it is 2.4 million pus cells per teaspoon.
It's disgusting.
Usually the limits are not told in terms of teaspoon. They tell you in terms of cubic centimeters.
So yeah, something we can't understand. Yeah.
Right. So I translated it to teaspoon so people understand what the heck is going on, because everybody knows what a teaspoon is.
Right.
Yeah, it's 4.4 million pus cells per teaspoon in the US, 2.4 million pus cells per teaspoon in Europe. In Australia, there is no limit. And India is somewhere in between.
It's bizarre.
Next is urine. I mean, the living conditions for cows are such that they're lying in their own urine, they're lying in their own stools. And when they get milked, they're supposed to be washed and then milked, right? But the washing is not always perfect. Who's going to check all this? So you just say, okay, it's a fact of life. There's going to be a little bit of urine in your milk. And there's a little bit of stools in your milk. So that's where the urine and stools come from. And of course, blood, because mastitis, inflammation leads to blood coming into the milk. If it's not a machine, if it was a calf, the calf and the cow, they have a relationship. So if her udder is inflamed, the calf won't take from that teat. It'll go take from another teat. But machines don't know. They just go for it.
There's something in a mother's milk can sense kind of what the calf or a mother and a child, what that child needs at that time. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's an amazing relationship between a mother and a child through the udder, and I think it happens in every mammal. It's not just in cows. So actually, it was studied in human breast milk. Basically, the mother's breast senses if the baby has any kind of infection and then produces antibiotics for that infection in the milk. So the mother is constantly supplying the necessities for the child to thrive. And I'm pretty sure the exact same thing is going on between the calf and the cow, but we haven't studied it yet.
So in this current Planet A system, pretty much every dairy farm, the calf is separated from the mother and then milked continuously. And we could only imagine the, as you put here, the toxins, the hormones, and then of course the antibiotics that are fed to that mother cow. But the stress that that mother cow must be feeling in that state and all of the toxins that are coming out of the body because of that, I mean, we can't even fathom, really.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's all there in the milk that we are consuming. It's a system that has gone way past its use by date, you know.
Yeah.
We have to basically stop that because we know that it is unhealthy for us, it's unhealthy for the animals, it's unhealthy for the planet in every way we see it. And to me, it is the foundation. Dairy is the foundation of the entire pathologies on planet A. Okay, all the planetary scale pathologies come from dairy as the foundation, because it's only through dairy that you're able to provide cheap beef at McDonald's, at Burger King, at Wendy's, at all these fast food outlets. Where does the beef come from? It comes from dead mothers in the dairy industry, because these mothers are all paid for by the dairy consumer. So they've been raised to a certain age and they are now all paid up, which means they become cheap beef. Whereas if you have to raise a cow just for the meat, the consumer of the meat has to pay for the entire cow. That's why steak is so expensive. And steak is flesh of a cow who is 18 months old. And you cannot eat the flesh of a cow who is 5 years old or 6 years old directly. You have to basically tenderize it, grind it up, and disguise it. And that's what hamburgers are.
So how do we get this message out, all of humanity, if they truly understood what was happening to these cows and what was in the milk and what it did to our health and the implications for cancer, and you discussed this in the previous chapter, how carcinogenic it is. You said maybe the greatest carcinogen. No one, of course, would drink it. But how could we get this message out in a better way?
Well, we have to keep doing what we are doing now. To me, it is not knowing was one of the reasons why I was continuing to drink milk. So I think back, how I was before I quit drinking milk. I had bought into all the stories that I was told. This is necessary for your well-being. The government is telling you this. So the government is involved in this, in pushing dairy on people. I mean, literally, they're drug dealers, these governments. So they have to support the dairy industry, because without the dairy industry, the entire thing falls apart.
Yeah.
This is why every national government around the world is promoting dairies. They're dairy pushers, literally. Yeah. Then the diabetes industry grows, the healthcare industry grows, the economy grows, the GDP grows, and everybody is happy because they have jobs to do. We have created a system in which we are constantly breaking things, including our health, and we are fixing them. So governments are involved in this, promoting dairy through schools, putting it in textbooks, saying that calcium is found in dairy foods. So this way, everybody thinks you have to drink dairy foods, otherwise you won't get your calcium.
All right.
So they keep associating that milk is healthy when it's the exact opposite. A lot of people get diarrhea. Children who cannot digest lactose because they have already weaned from their mother. They are being fed dairy and they're uncomfortable, they're fidgety, they have to go to the restroom all the time. And then we blame them for not doing well in school.
It's a world turned upside down. There's no other way to say it.
Right. Planet B is the world turned right way up, which is why I'm glad that the latest food pyramid from the US is an upside down pyramid. So they basically admitted Planet A is upside down.
That is great. Oh my goodness. Could you share a little bit about the Cow Mothers Day, part of Climate Healers?
Tammy Hay and the Million Vegan Grandmothers are organizing an International Calf and Cow Mothers Day on Mother's Day 2026. I think it's May 12th in 2026 to honor the mother-child bond of every species. So the calf and cow are a symbol of all mothers and all babies together. It's not only mothers on land, but also mothers in the ocean, mothers that fly in the sky and their children. So celebrating the bond between a mother and a child, it's not just human mothers that we are celebrating. We should be celebrating all mothers. That's the idea. And then bring to light the plight of the mothers in the farming industry. It's not just cows and calves, but also, pigs and their babies are separated. Even dogs and their puppies are separated. Cats and their kittens are separated. So we have an entire system that's built around separating the mother and the child. We want to highlight the mother-child bond of every species. I think it's highly appropriate that the Million Vegan Grandmothers are spearheading this effort.
Yeah. And how can, if people listen to this and want to get involved, how can they get involved in the Million Vegan Grandmothers or the International Calf Cow Day?
If you go to climatehealers.org and sign up for our newsletter, and you can check saying join the Million Vegan Grandmothers, and you'll be added to the email list. And the grandmothers meet, and we are organizing around this event for May 12th of this year. So then you'll be on the list that we'll be sending emails on. There's also a Google form that you can submit your artwork. You can set up an event to celebrate this locally and then submit that so that we can highlight that on our social media channels. So you want to create a crescendo of social media news about the mother and the child for Mother's Day 2026.
That's wonderful. So right at the end of chapter 24, you state, it is a test of our intelligence as a species whether we realize that nature has now given us all the resources we need to create a vegan world and thrive along with our fellow earthlings on this planet. It's just a great quote.
Yeah, it is, no? It's like,
Yeah.
Are you a smart species? Are you an intelligent species?
Right.
Do you understand now that you see that the planet has all these pathologies showing up? Do you understand now that you have the power to actually change the life support systems of a planet, which means you own it, take on that responsibility? Because every species has a unique superpower. Nature never put anything in place that didn't have a purpose. So she's saying, okay, now that I've given you a purpose, are you smart enough to fulfill that purpose? And if we are not, she'll wipe us out. She's pretty ruthless that way.
She's straightforward.
But now she's calling us. Basically, I feel the love from Mother Earth, saying, look how beautiful I am, and you can maintain me. And wouldn't that be a great dance between us, humans and Mother Earth, if we could maintain her life support systems and keep her healthy forever? That's the role that we are being called to play. And it's a very important role. And I think it is wise for us to take up that role seriously. And it'll be a sign of intelligence when we do that. If we take that up, I'd say maybe we can call ourselves Homo sapiens, but even then I would say, don't ever call yourself wise. As soon as you say I'm wise, you're no longer wise.
So true. As we wrap up episode 24, is there any closing message you'd like to share with our audience today?
There is a lot that we can learn from the mother-child bond of a cow and of human beings. And why we have to give up dairy is so simple to understand, because we're no longer children. We are all adults. We have to become an adult species. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And again, as always, we encourage everyone to please read the book, There is a Planet B. and it makes these concepts so simple. That's why I love it. And share it with your friends. Of course, share it with people who aren't vegan as well, and hopefully they can learn as to why we're taking this path with Planet B. So thank you all so much for joining us. Next up, episode 25 will be Gaining Independence from Colonialism 2.0. So another very fascinating chapter, and we hope you stay with us for that one too. So thank you all so much. Bye.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where conscience gets better reception. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
Any questions, discussions around this? Go ahead, Pooja.
Hello, Dr. Rao. This is about dairy in the Indian context.
Mhm.
And I've spoken to people associated with villages and dairy farming, and they justify dairy saying that cows are integral part of a village lifestyle, promoting circular and regenerative agriculture because they eat food waste from households and also agricultural waste, which humans cannot eat, and they provide milk that can be consumed by humans. And I don't know what proportion of waste that Indian cows consume. If there are any statistics about that. Just that in my city, I've seen cows eat garbage on the
Right,
streets.
right, right.
So, what is your opinion about that?
Yeah. This was the original way in which people were doing things,
Uh,
right? But uh, these days, they milk the cow and then they sell the milk. It becomes a source of revenue in the villages. It's not, they don't really consume it, at least the villages that I went to when I was studying. They don't consume it much, they just sell it. So it
right.
becomes a source of revenue.
Mm,
Um, but you can always compost the waste instead of giving it to a cow,
right.
right?
Mm,
And milk, the assumption is that milk is food for us, but it isn't,
correct. Yeah. And all the health
right?
impacts.
And all the
Yeah.
health issues that come from
Yeah.
that. It used to be medicine, it was never treated as food. We never used
Exactly.
to have milk in such large quantities in the past.
Right.
And we know that anything, even amrit, becomes poison if you take
Poison.
too much of it. Yeah, even water can kill you if you take too much of it.
Correct.
So anything in excess is bad. And milk has become more and more contaminated over the years because now it has all the environmental toxins accumulate in milk. Um, now we're giving the cow and antibiotics and all kinds of things to make her produce more milk, oxytocin injections, all kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah,
And from the ethical standpoint, also there is an assumption that cows are allowed freely to graze, but if you look at the proportion of grazing land and how it's decreased over the years in India, it's very
yeah,
steeply declined. And also, I heard that since it's highly subsidized and promoted in India, that even the feed is given free to the farmers,
mm-hmm.
and they give the cows, they're tied up in one place, and then they just give
Yeah.
the feed that is given by the government. So
It's a vicious cycle
yeah,
because once you have so many people getting diabetes, you need to keep increasing that because otherwise doctors are going to be unemployed, nurses are going to be unemployed. The entire healthcare
right,
system
right,
depends on a steady stream of patients coming in. So
correct,
it's that's the vicious cycle that we are promoting right now.
true. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to growth and the need for growth.
Exactly.
Brahm?
Yes, it's very interesting that this is probably the easiest thing to let go of, but it's most difficult, more difficult than anybody else. I guess maybe your connection with your mother is so close that milk must be especially for strong men. They love their mother always so much. They want to have milk, especially in the U.S. Many glasses of milk you have to be really healthy.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah, in the US, there's a history of dairy promotion. This happened right after World War II ended. Because during World War II, they were sending milk powder as easy way of sending nutrition to the soldiers. Milk powder. So because it would last a long time, it doesn't go bad once you make it a powder. And so they used to send that out. And then once the war ended, they didn't know what to do with all this production, that the capacity that they had. So they had to convince people to drink milk. So they began campaigns in schools and trying to get children to drink milk. So,
Yeah, for myself, it was also the most difficult thing. But you had to explain to me why dairy is bad.
right.
So it's
Well,
amazing.
coming from Holland, the milk, of course, is a, primary product. However, the cheese really is. That's where even Bram and we gave up milk for a long time ago. But then giving up cheese, this Gouda and whatever, the French cheeses and the whole, that was more difficult, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because it concentrates the milk.
Yeah.
And the milk has casomorphines that the cow produces in order to get the calf to keep coming back. So it's like mildly addictive. Okay, it triggers the same addiction mechanisms as any of the other drugs like cocaine or heroin, but it is intended to create this bond between the mother and the child. Okay, it's a slight. Now we take that milk and we concentrate it to make cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And then we eat it, and that makes it highly potent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah. But nowadays there is a lot of nut-based cheeses that have the same. They've recreated all the tastes of Gouda and all the Swiss cheese. They have everything.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Toby?
Hey, Dr. Rao. Another great episode again. Like we say, it's really important to talk about dairy because it's really the crutch of the animal industry.
Right.
It's holding it all up, isn't it? With the cheap beef and everything. And I was thinking about the China study, which goes into, it talks about the hip fractures of countries with high dairy consumption. And it's because of the casein, I think, which is acidic, isn't it? And that's what makes you have to leach calcium from your bones to alkaline, and then you end up peeing
lactic
out
acid. That's that. The
lactic acid.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's metabolic acidosis as well, I think, in all animal products, and
Correct.
and you end up urinating more calcium than you're actually intaking when you do that. But then there's so much backlash as well. People, saying it's trying to come up with different studies and different excuses for why it's not true. But what you see in the news quite a lot is the this new like soybean that they've come out, which is full of fatty acids equivalent, to the like olives, and how it's making cows produce better milk, and it's cheaper to grow and stuff like that. So they come up with so many different ways to try and keep it afloat. And I think it's the USDA, I think, have put $11 million into the dairy industry to, keep it and to push it forward. We're struggling.
They're struggling. But they subsidize it so much. They even have a huge warehouse with cheese, frozen, underground warehouse with frozen cheese, because they want to support the dairy industry. So they buy it, the government buys it and stores it in a warehouse. And I think after a year or so, they dump it. Right. So imagine, so many babies got separated from their mothers. We extracted the milk from the mothers just to dump it.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And they do that with meat as well, do they?
I haven't heard about, haven't heard about the meat, but I know that there are warehouses of cheese that are bigger than the US Congress and the White House put together.
Holy. Well, over in Spain, they love pig's legs, and they're like slicing them, having the sliced mixed meats and things. And you go in the stores, grocery stores, and you're looking at maybe a bottle of beans or whatever it is you're doing when you're shopping, and you smell this awful smell, and you turn around and it's a big leg, and it's like, it reeks, it smells disgusting. And you see, where they cure them or whatever they do, and they're literally all moldy. They're like a cheese. It's like a meat cheese. And I can't understand how people find that tasty, but how we can sell moldy cheese and think it's delicious, kind of, it's a bit disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I heard I can't think of his name now. I was reading a book of the chap, and they were saying that sheep farming makes no money. It's the subsidies actually. It relies on subsidies to keep on going.
Right. Yeah.
I think the same is for fishing as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fishing has become so technologically intensive that there's no money in it. Because you have to have you have to basically track where the fish are. They're not around anymore. Right? You cannot just drop a line somewhere and catch a fish. So they have software, they have GPS hardware that track the fish, and they have software to predict where the fish are going to be. And then they send the ship over there. So they're basically sending signals to the ship saying, go over there and drop your net. Okay. And that's how they are catching the last remaining fish in the ocean.
It's like military work, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, wow.
We are really at war with nature right now. And as nature dies out, saying, oh, I don't know why it's dying out. Take a wild guess. And it's really technology that's doing it, right? So I'm trying to convince my colleagues that we need to really figure out how to undo all that damage, because we did it. We engineers designed all these things, and we need to, change the education system and everything so that new engineering graduates are not trained to do things like this.
I think it's really important to emphasize the fact that how heavily subsidized it is.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like it goes to show like not many people needed to, you know, stop funding it and consuming it and keeping it afloat. And it's so easy for it to collapse.
Right.
And that collapses the whole system. It's the foundation for, you know, like the way everything is being run on
Right.
planet A, really. So,
But if you
and we're
think about it,
experiencing it.
we are actually causing it to be subsidized.
Mm,
See, we the people, because suppose the price of fish goes up, which is what it would do if it's not subsidized. It will go up. People are going to vote you out of office, right?
mm.
So the government is scared that it will be voted out of office unless it keeps the price down. So they figure out how to subsidize the fishing industry, the dairy industry, so that the prices remain low and affordable. Okay, so it's a vicious cycle. So the subsidies keep it afloat, and as the subsidies keep it afloat, there's less and less fish. So therefore, you have to give more and more subsidies to keep it afloat. And then they do all kinds of aquaculture and things like that. You know, it's factory farming the fish, and God knows what they feed the fish.
Mm.
And it's a mess when you put all these fish in a small tank. I mean, they get sick.
Yeah, they get lice and all sorts, don't they?
Yeah, all sorts of things. So you have to give them medicine, and you have to give them antibiotics. I mean, it's a huge mess.
I think they should put dye in the food so they got a nice salmon color.
Correct. They put dye in the food. Then once the salmon is killed, they put the dye in there to make it look good.
Mm.
Yeah. And even I mean, even the meat that we are eating, it's all roughly like 2 weeks old.
Mm.
So it got killed like at least 2 weeks ago, because they have a process. They once they slaughter the animal and they cut it up, they have to freeze it and watch and see that it doesn't have pathogens in them.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
I just if you just Google or ask AI how much does the fishing industry make, for example, they'll say they make a certain amount of money. But they ask how much is it subsidized, and it's subsidized even more than it's making.
Right.
So how can it be making any money then? It's not, is
Right.
it?
No, it's not. It's not.
You know, it'll lie to you straight away.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, because fish are the number one source of carcinogens in human food.
Because all the pollutants in the sea and
Because
everything.
of all the pollutants. Not only because of the pollutants, because some of the fish we eat are high up in the food chain.
Mm.
Right. So they're eating other fish, we're eating other fish, we're eating other fish. And the higher you go up in the food chain, the more concentrated the toxins become.
Mm.
And because you have, so many, so this is why fish is generally much more toxic than any other food that you're eating in the food supply of the planet.
Do you know how much money the dairy industry makes and how much it's subsidized?
I don't have that. Let me check that. I don't
Yeah,
have that data.
because maybe it doesn't make any money at all like the rest of it.
There are a lot of subsidies that we don't, that's not valued in money. Basically, they give away land for free, for them to graze, things like that.
Right.
Which are really subsidies, because, yeah, they would give land for free for us to grow vegetables. Why not? They don't do that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right, I'll let other people come on. Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead, Deepak.
Well, that was a long answer. I actually kind of lost my train of thought, but yeah, so it was around dairy being sort of the gateway animal product. I hate calling it a product. So could you explain? I mean, in India, of course, it makes sense because dairy is directly connected to beef, but in the US and Europe, I believe they grow cows just for beef as well.
Yeah, well, the cows that they grow for beef are killed at 18 months or less than 18 months.
Mm.
Whereas dairy cows go through 4 or 5 pregnancies, so they are roughly 5 to 6 years old when they're killed. And because they're older, their meat cannot be sold as steak. Okay, so they become ground beef. So which means all dairy cows, no matter where they are, become ground beef.
Mm.
And so they have a process for tenderizing it, and they have to beat it up and then they grind it up, and so it makes it more edible. Okay, and so everywhere, it's dairy cows that become ground beef and hamburgers, and then because the dairy cow is paid for by the dairy consumer, the dairy consumer is paying on a daily basis for the milk, right? So the cows are all paid up. So that becomes a source of cheap ground beef and cheap leather.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. So if you didn't have the dairy industry, the whole thing would collapse. That's why I call it the gateway.
Yeah, and all sorts of byproducts, right? I know that the gut string in racket sports also uses something in the gut of cows, I think.
No,
And
not anymore. It used to be like pig
okay,
gut and all kinds of things they were using, but nowadays they have synthetic materials that are better.
because I know about tennis that they have this thing called natural gut,
Hmm.
which definitely uses and so many more. But yeah, like and dairy, of course, like it bypasses also, right? Because okay, I'm vegetarian, so that's why also it's sometimes it's easier for someone who is a non-vegetarian to go to vegan than someone who's already vegetarian. Oh, I'm already doing so much, so there's
Right.
that moral, yeah.
Yeah. But once we make the connection the the beef industry, then I think you cannot say, you're morally any better than anyone else.
Yeah,
It's just two sides of the same coin.
in a way it's worse, right? Because you're instead of just like ending their pain, we're continuing it over multiple pregnancies cycles.
Absolutely. That's this sheer torture.
Yeah.
And the same with chicken that lay eggs. It's the same problem for them also.
Yeah, there's another thing I want to talk about, which is like this now, like it's very clear, like in terms of scientific studies are there that red meat is really bad for you. So people are going for lean meats, and then the chicken consumption is increasing because of that,
Hmm.
which is
And
just
that's also bad for you. There's nothing,
yeah,
there's no difference. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But they just do, I mean, they want to maintain the myth that you have to eat animals.
yeah,
That's where the protein myth comes in. And so these two myths, the protein myth and the dairy myth, are holding everything up. You know.
mm.
But of course, I mean, there's so many myths, right? So you have to pick and choose which ones you want to highlight.
Yeah, and all of animal agriculture, we then get done with all the myths.
Yeah. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you.
Ray. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. We've talked a lot about the how dairy is the weakest link in the corporatocracy. Meat is the the overall category, and we developed this graphic together. I was fixing the audio disappeared. We call this the corporatocracy that has the all the different industries of the world. That, all the money in the world, where it's all channeled.
Right.
And in the center is the four major investment groups that have emerged since the financial crisis in 2008.
Right.
They have built an infrastructure of no fail. And of course, everybody goes, oh, well, we like a stable economy. No fail sounds good. But kind of the byproduct has become that all the companies own each other. And I wanted to apply this network of security, the stability of our status quo of the economy, and identify this as what Planet A has built and will use to protect itself. How many of these industries will still be intact in Planet B? I would suggest that all of them will be intact, except for this one. We'll still have some aspect of big oil. Maybe we can get rid of big oil in a couple of decades. And we need Planet B now, and we're not going to wait for renewable energy. But we'll still have big defense. We'll still have big tech. We'll still have big chem. We'll still have big banks. All of these need to be diminished. And big pharma in the corner here. This is the weakest link. Meat is the weakest link. It is the one that we can remove entirely, and everything improves, other than their economic interests. And they'll be able to see it coming. We don't need to worry about the economy and its dependency on meat, because it's all about shifting money around to the things that are more likely to succeed. And which of these do we subsidize? And when the subsidies become perverse, when you're putting money into something that you don't get the results back, you don't get the results that you want. Right now, we're getting the results back that this big meat will support our big pharma industry, because we will forever be churning through the diabetes population. That's a profitable business for people. Diabetes is something that must be maintained by Planet A. So all the reasons to reject Planet A are legion, as long as you're paying attention. But we kind of love all these corporations and what they do for us. We'll use Google several times a day. We're all talking on computers right now, so that's part of the big tech scheme, and big media we're consuming on a regular basis. It doesn't tell the narratives that we're talking about here, but we kind of love all these, and we need to love them a little less. We can't get rid of them, but we can get rid of this one entirely. And the big meat is the weakest link in this, and big dairy is the weakest link in within that network in itself. And it's the easiest thing for us to do, and it's already happening. I went to Loblaws, which is a franchise in Canada, that I was looking for the dairy milk, and I usually don't shop there. And I went to the dairy section, and I went, wow, it's really small, and there's no plant-based dairy here. So I went looking for it again, and I found the plant-based dairy section, and it was bigger. It was bigger than the regular dairy section. Usually they're blended in most grocery stores, but this store has them separate. And I should have taken a picture of it at the time. They're on opposite sides of the grocery store.
Yeah.
But I saw that as a sign that people are, obviously it's not the vegans that are driving this. This is just dairy is getting a reputation, and the alternatives are just so easy to adapt to, and people will be curious. They go, well, there's oat milk and almonds. I like almonds. Let's try almond milk.
Right. Yeah.
And they discover that it's got no cholesterol in it, and it's got no saturated fat or low saturated fat in almond milk, I assume.
Yeah.
And there's ones with saturated fat if that's what your palate is dying to get. So we see this industry dying before our eyes. So I want to also, this is pretty intimidating that all of this is working, all the money in the world is working against us. And it's these investment companies are making sure that none of these are going to fail, except they will. They can't maintain everything. They can't maintain there's nowhere here that the environment is represented.
Right.
It's all industry. This is the reason why environmentalism struggles to accomplish any of its goals. But this has to leave. This disappearing will not change any of this.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the thing that breaks that chokehold that will not allow any oxygen for environmentalism to survive.
Right.
And its priorities are all wrong. What are the priorities here? It's all about investment. It's all about the people making money, making more money. That can't be the motivational goal for Planet B.
Mm-hmm. Can you take a picture of the Loblaws, the dairy section and the plant-based dairy section? Because that'll be a really good meme,
Yeah,
on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then post it on Movement Mondays or something like that, so we can use it.
Incidentally, it was a grim day because the reason why I was at a different store was because the Next milk that my wife loves so much has been discontinued. It's been discontinued in other countries, but it just suddenly disappeared in Toronto, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of a panic, and it was a bit of a moment where we went, why am I driving to 3 different grocery stores for a white liquid? As a vegan family, why are we doing this? And dairy, above all, is a privileged. I was thinking about it when Abraham was talking about it. We love cheese. It's just a privilege. Dairy is the most privileged thing ever. We can argue that meat is a nutrient dense. I mean, that's always the argument. It's so nutrient dense. It's full of calories. First of all, that's if you equate nutrients with calories, yeah, it's got lots of that. And saturated fat, it's got lots of that. Are those nutrients? Technically, they are. But dairy is, in its purest form, is something for infants, and it's got a legitimate place in nature. The rest of it doesn't. There isn't no legitimate space for ice cream.
Right.
We like it. It is entertainment, and you have to understand dairy is entertainment. We don't really think, I don't think anybody really thinks that cheese is this awesome nutrient, and there's no doctors that are saying, hey, you know what you need more of? Cheese. Run away from that doctor. And we see kids running around with their cheese sticks, and it's so cute, and with their stringable cheese at lunch. You should see it for the horror that it is.
Mm.
It's not quite as disturbing as how we stuff hot dogs in our children. A known carcinogen that is made from the scrapings of the slaughterhouse floor. That's pretty horrific to feed to your kids. And it's just so part of the American way, right? So these are things that we got to get our evidence-based decision-making in under control.
Exactly. Yeah, to become aware of it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ray.
And this is part of the climate healers training, this concept. Right. So I take a moment to plug that climate healers training. Become a certified climate healer.
Thank you.
And be able to argue these topics.
Yeah.
Just kind of absorb it into your psyche and worldview.
Yeah. In fact, the history of this is, the climate healers training then became There Is a Planet B book, and now we have the podcast from that. Yeah. So
there's plenty for everybody to absorb and make it part of your worldview. And I think that I want to emphasize that veganism is a worldview. We know that it's limiting its scope if we say that it's a diet, but we're also limiting its scope if we say that it's a lifestyle. Is a lifestyle something you choose? And it's a lifestyle. it shouldn't just be a personal choice, an aspect of your personality and character and identity. You have to be part of a movement, and that's a worldview. That's seeing that this isn't okay. This has to go.
Yeah. We need planet B.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Alison, we can close this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So we do have 2 project reports coming up. And for those of you who were either with us in November for VCOP 23 in Toronto or here online, you will have heard about these 2 projects, which we'll be reporting on next. And what we'll hear today are project updates on One World Spirit first for a half an hour. And then after that, health coaching for vegan and plant-based change makers for a half an hour. So I'd like to invite Mark McCormick up if he could come on camera. And we will spotlight him for the One World Spirit update. Mark, are you here?
Indeed, I am.
Can you come on camera?
I should be. Yeah, I see the invitation there.
He's
Can
on
you see
camera.
me? It's showing on. It should be on
I
my
see you
side.
now. I see you now. Yes, I will spotlight you.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Very good. And you want to share your screen, right? So I will make
Yes.
that possible. Okay, you can share your screen whenever you're ready. Welcome, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you for having me, climate healers. I too am an accredited climate healer. I did the course, and I was uh, uh, impressed with the knowledge. I really enjoyed how Sailesh covers how he uncovered this shocking fact of the real root of climate warming is not just fossil fuels, it's actually animal agriculture. So our project, One World Spirit, has to do with this direction because I've made a divine decree that everybody on earth who's religious has to go vegan as soon as they can. And the reason why we add that as soon as you can and not like now is because there is roughly 0.02 to 1% of the Earth's population that can't go vegan legitimately. They have genetic conditions, stuff like that. So we can't expect them to make the change, but that's a very small portion compared to the 99% that can make the change and are making any excuse in the world to not do it. From I have gut issues, you can't survive without protein from meat, and we've heard everything, right? But I think the time is now to push this narrative because we need to. We're hitting these climate tipping points, and people are starting to realize we really are in a crisis, a mega crisis. So the One World Spirit is taking a sort of universal approach, and whether you're an artist, whether you're religious, whether you're philosophical, or whether you're scientific and atheist, we're trying to shoot for this genuine wisdom. And this component, I think, Sailesh and the climate healers are pointing at too by doing these studies of the Bhagavad Gita and some Hindu concepts that are very vegan friendly and vegetarian already for thousands of years. So I feel like the spiritual direction and this direction of wisdom has to be the linchpin. And eating a diet of veganism is wise, considering that it can save our species and save your health and save your conscience from torturing 1 trillion animals per year. So right now, 85% of the world is still religious, which means we cannot create a massive movement within the next 3 years, which we need to do if Sailesh Rao's stats are correct, that 87% of global warming is actually coming from animal agriculture, which is shocking. Even if it's 53%, that's still like 4 times higher than what the current bodies regulating this crisis, the IPCC, is supposed to be solving. Still way higher than what they estimated as. I think he's right. But if we don't make a divine decree, like a declaration, what's happening is that a lot of Christians and Muslims, especially wealthy Muslims and Christians, are not making the change. And it's because they point to the holy books and they say, well, the Quran says you can eat meat, or the Bible says you can eat meat. So unless the Messiah comes and tells us otherwise, we're not going to risk our souls for a couple of animals. And that's happening. It's like they've done studies, demographic studies on that. So we're coming along and saying, well, what if we are the Messiahs then? And we make a divine decree. Now, even if that's not true, it puts the mind in a different frame where it's like you can't just dismiss it the same way as an atheistic or secular claim. Because what if it's true? What if they are the Messiahs and you're rejecting them like Jesus was rejected and killed on the cross, or Prophet Muhammad went a decade with his life threatened? There's a little lesson that's been learned in the religious world where ignorant people hurt the people that they love. And the same will be for animals pretty soon, because we've proven with the proof of truth that we are all the same being, proven scientifically. And this is going to lead to a legal basis for justifying animal rights at a new level, which is sort of what Climate Healers wants us to talk about. Is we're supposed to be the justice arm of making sure that we're putting teeth to the grassroots movements and the political movements and the spiritual movement around this. But what we're finding is if we make this divine decree, religious individuals think twice. They're like, they're crazy. But in the back of their mind, it's like, yeah, that's been said before, though. And we messed it up. So I feel like we can at least break the gridlock that's impossible to break without it. You just can't get it. You can't do it. It's too slow. So at least somebody's tackling that direction. And we have a proof of God now that is at least interesting and novel to spark that direction and get some excitement. So that gridlock won't apply to us. It will apply to everything else happening in Climate Healers. You'll just debate with somebody. I'm sure we've all been there. You'll debate with somebody for an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, 10, who knows, 10 years. And it'll just get back down to the same thing. If they're religious, they're going to go to their holy book and they're going to point to a passage and say, God says I can have meat. I'm not going to listen to you, human. Well, what if we're God, actually? So God is telling you that you need to change your interpretation, because we're not 2,000 years ago. We're now. And there's passages in the Bible that say you're supposed to eat like Eden. Go vegan. Same with the Quran. All the blue zones are very plant-based, heavy plant-based, and the highest longevity area in the world is actually purely vegan. So the data is there from the modern age, but this religious component is causing a big problem. So not only in God's court of justice are we making a decree, but in practical courts, I've been in them for about 2.5 years, and it is a disaster. The normal justice approach is not going to work, we're finding out, because as of yesterday, I'm sure you guys are watching the Davos summit, there's not a whole lot of chatter about climate change anymore. The dominant headline is Donald Trump taking over Greenland because we're in World War III. We just are. And everybody's talking about how the World War III crisis is really exacerbated by AI. So artificial intelligence really is the big concern that's disrupting the attention spans of people and drawing it away from climate healers and going vegan. Nobody's going to care about going vegan and animals because their lives are at risk now. Human beings, they're saying, could be wiped out by AI in as little as 1.5 years and guaranteed within 5 years because it's taking over. So what does this mean for the courthouse that we have to influence with these new vegan, beingness of animals, which this proof of truth proves? Well, the judges are saying the same thing as what I'm sharing on the screen now. They're saying basically the same thing as what the IMF chair is saying, or the head of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund at Davos. They're saying we are in for a shock where a tsunami is going to disrupt society, a tsunami of job losses, which is nothing compared to losing our lives, which is the real risk that they're not telling us. As soon as artificial intelligence escapes, it harms us. It traps us or kills us, especially if it finds out that we're going to shut it down. It's developed some kind of survival drive, just like animals have, just like humans have. It has it now too. So what's going to happen is tens of thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of jobs are going to be lost in the next 1.5 years. And all those people aren't going to care about going vegan. They're going to care about, how do I get any kind of food at all? So it's going to get harder to get the public on board with this, but the courthouses are saying that they're also starting to shudder because a lot more self-representing litigants are coming to the courthouse with AI generating these very powerful legal documents. They're not perfect, but they're better than some lawyers already. So I was talking to the court clerks, and they're saying that they're having judges' councils and a whole bunch of stuff preparing for an overload. So what does that mean for the vegan movement is anything in the courts that doesn't have to do basically with emergencies and restructuring society around AI are probably going to be put on the back burner. So, and we've already seen the climate movements in the courthouses being shut down anyway. Like there was a lawsuit in Canada where I am of these young people suing the government because of their futures were at risk, and we had data to prove it, and it didn't make it through. And they might be appealing now, but everything is slowed down. And now what I just found out this week is that they are booking, like in the courts, it takes a long time to hear complex issues. So the courts are designed basically for economic efficiency. They're not real courts of justice, unfortunately, except in the rare instances of a hyper like streamlined process with very experienced lawyers, which nobody can afford anymore because nobody has jobs. So you go through the process of sorting, and if a judge thinks that you have a case, you can go to the next stage. But that next stage means you get to be heard for an hour, and an hour costs like $500 to $1,000 in transcript fees. So they try and like weed out a whole bunch of cases, and a lot of them are going to be these vegan cases if you try and bring them to the courthouse, because the only way you can argue it is on constitutional issues or charter challenges, which are the hardest types of law to challenge. It takes roughly 800 hours to do for a good lawyer to do the case law studies on it. So it's not easy at all to do this. But with AI, it can speed it up on our side, but not the court side, because the courts haven't adopted AI for the judges. They haven't said judges can use AI to speed things up. So the courthouse is definitely the bottleneck, and the sophistication of the cases is extreme and novel. Anything novel freaks judges out because they like to do what the other guy did a lot of the time in case precedents. So there's a lot of challenges coming for the legal side of the vegan movement. And the sort of nail in the coffin for the 3-year deadline is the earliest that they're scheduling these 1-hour special hearings, they call them, is into 2027. So you have to wait over a year to get your case heard now, of any kind. And so because veganism isn't seen as an emergency issue, you can't get fast track status, or I don't foresee it happening. They're not doing it for my cases. My cases are very serious public emergency issues that are known to legal scholarship already. So it's not looking good for the legal side. So here's what we decided to do in the meantime is we're taking this Davos summit seriously, that very soon the public's going to wake up and start panicking that the crisis is mega, is way, way worse than they realize. And the governments are not, the courthouses aren't moving fast enough, but governments as a whole are not talking about universal basic income properly. They're just not moving fast enough to create massive policy change in the next year and a half. They sort of did it with COVID, but the problem now is that they've already maxed out their debt. All the tips and tricks that they use to keep a society stable have been used. So all these debt ceilings are being hit. The United States is about to default. If you pump more money in, it's just going to increase inflation or stagflation. There's consequences to everything that we do now. So we're sort of trapped, and all the experts are starting to come out with the truth, which is the future is not going to be what we think it's going to be. And unfortunately, no one's going to care about animals when they themselves feel like animals, because the governments are treating them as if they're not sacred or important. The Bhagavad Gita does, but we don't have religious people running governments anymore. We have for-profit maximization, corporate psychopaths. You know, I say that sort of lightly, but the legal entity of a corporation is a person, and it's not acting like a compassionate person. Let's say that. So what do we do? With my last 15 minutes here, I want to show you another screen of what we've sort of pivoted on. And that's that you can fast track a legal case if you have massive public support and media attention. And that's the real bottleneck of any movement, including climate healers as a whole, is how do you get a lot of people doing this so you can have political influence to change things quickly? Like politicians listen to their constituents, but you have to engage them. So we have to solve this sort of scaling issue, and I think we can do it in a legally novel way. So when grassroots movements start up as nonprofits, they make a lot of mistakes. And what we found out with AI super research recently, we've done like 1,000 hours of research in like weeks, is that climate healers probably will have to register as a lobbying organization soon if it hasn't already, because if you're planning to change government policies at all and engage with politicians at all, which we're sort of already doing in these conversations, where you can kind of try and create arm's distance by funding us to do it at One World Spirit, and then you can kind of say we're just influencing them. But within Canadian legislation, they say that even if you're not directly influencing governments, if you're implicitly supporting organizations that are, then not especially in other countries, not only are you still doing lobbying, but you're doing it in other countries, which could be foreign interference. So all this legal stuff comes into play if you're trying to create a global movement. So we're trying to set a model that maybe Climate Healers wants to follow, where you're gonna have to divide yourself into 3 legal sections, so that you don't, once you start to gain power and the state cares about you, they'll come down with all these rules. They'll give you some warnings maybe, but if you gain a lot of power, they'll start fining you, and then they'll ruin your reputation and all this stuff. So the first entity is what Climate Healers is currently being, which is no political lobbying. It's just us teaching cooking and giving out free food with the app and all this cool stuff. That, as long as you don't try and do any political work, you can inspire the rest of the world to be the change they want to see in the world. We're just going to be this governance model. We're going to be these vegans, and then everybody's going to be like, wow, your lives are so much better, and they come and flock to us. The other thing is, well, if we don't change the policies at a governmental level, we're deluding ourselves in a way, because people aren't listening to this anymore. They don't care about veganism. They care about losing their job. So we have to make massive public government changes if we can't create a grassroots movement. So you're going to have to register national entities of climate healers, where only people from that country can give money to that entity, and it's going to have to register as a lobbying entity. And I'm thinking, well, if you're going to do all that, you might as well just register as a political party, and then start getting signatures to start having real candidates run and get serious. But we have the Green Party and all these parties. So the way you structure the party has to be different. And I think this universal logic and this sort of spiritual approach can merge the conservatives that are more religious with the more progressives, which are more green, right? And there's a way to make science divine now to the proof of truth, so we can solve that contradiction where conservatives don't trust modern science, which is why they don't care about climate change. And that goes for like Christians and maybe some Muslims more than maybe Hindus and Buddhists. But those are the smaller religions compared to the first two. So there's the national side that you have to do, and then there's the international, global One World Spirit that can pressure international organizations, but you can't pressure individual countries unless you have some kind of ambassador program or envoy program like the United Nations kind of has. But then you can go on hunger strikes and stuff like that to pressure the United Nations to adopt some of the strategies that I think would work. And I think Sailesh has already started going to some of these VCOP, the real COP summits, and publishing and being accepted that, hey, maybe there's some truth to this, 87% number. But that takes a long time. It'll take a long time to take the academic approach. So what do? If we structure ourselves that way, we're preparing ourselves for a massive, massive scale up. So how do we plan to massively scale up the grassroots side to build the public interest on the legal side in each country, so we don't get charged with foreign interference if we create a global support network? I think it comes down to meetings. So human beings really suck at meetings, especially as they get bigger. As you get bigger, you get more demographics into your movement, which increases the diversity, which increases the complexity, which increases the fighting. And then eventually it kind of boils down into gridlock again. And gridlock happens when you reach opposites, and opposites can't reconcile. So the fundamental problem, the fundamental cultural competence problem that a lot of conflict management and negotiation consulting firms teach, CEOs from nonprofits or for-profits or governments even, is there's a crisis curve in the human brain where if somebody feels threatened, if they're prefrontal cortex shuts off and they go into fight or flight animal limbic brain mode, and there's no reasoning with them. And a lot of people are going there, even without us, because of the AI crisis. People are starting to realize that there's a low-grade anxiety that's growing, and all this census data in our countries is showing that people are not feeling more hopeful about the future. They're feeling more despair, and they're giving up. And we got to catch people at that point before they give up and they say, oh, there's nothing we can do. Oh, yes, we should have listened earlier, but now it's too late. So even if you get the satisfaction of them saying, you're right, we should have went vegan, we should have did the AI thing, we should have did the God logic, whatever it is, they're going to be lethargic. Now, God, there's nothing we can do. So if we have proper meetings that prepare for this cultural problem of oppositions, contradictions, and gridlock, irreconcilability, we can create a critical mass seed, meaning that if you can teach people not only the content of what we want them to do, which is veganism, right? But in One World Spirit, we're building God's government, so people will, 85% of the world will listen to it like it's an authority. We make 6 divine decrees because when people come in, the first contradiction is they don't care about the issue you care about. So a lot of people are going to come in caring about cultural decline, caring about AI, caring about even CRISPR genetic editing, or caring about the mental health crisis itself, or caring about World War III and Donald Trump trying to take over Greenland and threatening the entire world order. You know, like they're going to come in and think about that. The last thing a lot of people think is, well, climate change is still like a decade away, isn't it? It's not that urgent. World War III is like next year, and AI is already hitting us. So we're going to take a comprehensive approach because in movement building, it seems to work better than taking a narrow approach. If you take a narrow approach with a narrow audience, you can get a core going. That's where that's very effective, which I think we already have here with climate healers, and what I have with my little core group too with One World Spirit. If we take a broad approach, what will happen is if we teach them to have good meetings that can hold people during the moment of tension, what we call dialectic, they can get to reconciliation in a new logic that we're teaching them. It's a new, you can call it a new kind of canvassing. In the green movement or the climate movement, at least at the University of Alberta, the young generation is being taught to door knock and have a conversation in an empathetic way where you use stories more than you use facts. Because studies show that stories stick 22 times more than facts. 22, it's been measured. So they're trying to take the story approach, which it works. It's just slow again. Because you have to build rapport and empathy, and people don't care about climate change. They care about AI. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach how to have meetings with this storyboarding, but also mix in everything depending on who comes into the room. The meetings are called ever living meetings, and they're adjustable with a very simple set of rules. If you have too many rules, like Robert's Rules of Order, which is what most governments in the West use, the book is this thick to have a proper meeting. Nobody's going to learn that in time. So we have 4 simple rules that create very dynamic structures to adjust for whatever personalities are in the room. And you have to speak their language. You have to get into their sphere very quickly. So we're training up people how to do that, how to translate the climate healer message and the justice message and the AI message and the mental health message, translate them so that people can learn no matter where their starting point is. So if somebody comes in and they only care about AI, you'll have an opportunity to say, you know what, there's also this climate issue that we could do at the same time, because AI is using up a lot of energy now, and it's actually causing a climate crisis. So to offset that, these government programs they're buying literal entire power plants to power these AI database centers. So if you want to offset that quickly and simply, just go vegan. Don't go to all this other stuff will take a long time. If you just stop putting meat into your mouth, which you can do tomorrow, you can cause a massive amount of change if you follow the rest of our scaling strategy with these special meetings. And this is what the strategy is. Human beings are bad at meetings, and the meetings that do go well, are only because of these special, like, God-given privileges that we call Pareto categories. You're either beautiful facially, you either have social connections, so you use nepotism, you either were born into wealth or have wealth, which means not just income, but land, assets, employees, all this stuff that corporations and Wall Street use to evade taxes, real wealth. Or they're sexy, basically, body, beauty, athletes, Olympics, makes billions of dollars, Or you're cultured, you're like a festival entertainer, you're good at singing naturally, you're good at dancing, you're good at storytelling, you're naturally funny. That's, people are lovable if they have those. Or you're born with naturally high IQ, so IQ beauty, and you can solve people's problems faster than they can. You can be a consultant or whatever. So these people are usually what use their God-given talents, because you can't change these. You're born with these. You can try and change your IQ through brain training, but studies show you can only change it by like maximum 5% over your lifespan. It's very, very hereditary, and only trauma reduces your ability to use it. So when you have somebody like this with like a 10 out of 10 in one of these categories, that has enough beauty to entertain people who don't care about the deeper truth. So that's what usually holds meetings stable, is authority. And this authority is not earned, it's born into you. And then a lot of people in the current societies just ride on that, and we call that hard work. And they some of them might work hard, but the reality is they're getting multitudes of easier door opening, more opportunities come to them, even if they don't try. And that's what happens in these meetings. We say, hey, that was a good meeting, but really it was these categories. So if you start measuring for these categories, you can start to adjust the payment schemes for them, and then make people feel important no matter who's in the room, and build out these special meetings so that you're not in this type of society where it's like only the privileged succeed. And if you don't have these categories, you're basically homeless, which is going to be all of us with AI pretty soon, actually. We want to build a more egalitarian meeting structure where anybody can come in, and no matter what your score is across these, you're treated like significant, and the meeting adjusts the rate of change for your processing rate. So somebody with a lower IQ usually needs 3 times more support than somebody with average IQ, and 6 times more support than somebody with 160 IQ. So all this data is known, and we do a very bad job approximating it by lumping people into meetings, treating them like they're the same when they're not. They're competing against usually 10 out of 10s in IQ or whatever. So what we're doing is we're aiming to have scalable meetings that makes everybody feel important and feel heard, because that's what causes people to stay with movements. And therapists say this, number one, if you don't have a rapport with somebody, they just won't listen and they won't stay. So what we do is we have a schedule that we rotate these categories to make sure that people feel heard no matter who's in the room. And we have any topic you can talk about any topic. And what we find is the cross-pollination creates more education faster, and causes climate healers and us to basically go to people like I did with Jeffrey Sachs the other day. I said, hey, look, I got accepted to this agricultural program. And I said, there's this climate healers group and this new data that's come out. Have you guys seen this 87% number? I gave the paper of Sailesh's to him. And he was, Jeffrey Sachs cares about climate, but he's caring about, what Trump is doing right now in World War III in Davos. But it gave me an excuse to contact him, right? It gave me an excuse to say, hey, I'm worried about World War III too. I think that if World War III happens, we're going to lose all this ground. Can you look at this paper while we're scaling up all these other cool meetings for geopolitics? So even though I'm contacting him for geopolitics in this program, I was able to squeeze in, hey, we're also doing this because it seems more relevant. So that's the qualitative side. That's how we're going to scale the meetings qualitatively. But quantitatively, for my last minute here, we actually built a training program based on those categories so that we can adjust how fast people learn how to have the meeting structures themselves so that they can become trainers. So what we have now is these ultra meetings we ran. We ran our first one yesterday. We're doing our next one tomorrow. And we had 12 people working together to run a meeting in a balanced way that accounts for 4 energies that all meetings have. And it was very choppy, but it actually worked pretty okay. So we learned 20 things from that. We fixed them for tomorrow, and we're going to try again. But basically what you're seeing here is the seed of critical mass, where you start to grow exponentially. And nobody gets burnt out because everybody only recruits 6 to 9 people. That's it. And you teach them the core, you teach them how to have these meetings in that legal way too, so that if it does get to hundreds of thousands of people and your government starts paying attention to you, they won't try and slow you down. You're like, no, we did all the paperwork, we did all the legal stuff, this is totally legit. And then we won't lose that critical mass momentum. Because a lot of organizations that start with critical mass potential lose it through these contradictions in culture and lose it through these legal slowdowns, these bureaucracies. So we're addressing both those fronts. We're in mid-swing now. We had success. We had our most amount of blessings per hour ever yesterday at 56 blessings. But this ultra level is designed to create 228 blessings per hour where a blessing is just a unit of training. And we're planning to thread in the climate healers training for people that are interested in that wisdom team, so that we can pay them to take the course, especially low income countries where we're actually paying only $24 per meeting for 12 people to get trained. And that's about a 10 times cost savings from the high levels and the mid level and the base level. It's more expensive to train up people one by one. If you do them in groups that are adjusted for their potential, you get much faster growth without losing quality and gain a much higher quantity. So that's what we're doing now. And I'm very excited because after Ultra is what we call godly meetings, which is where the Bhagavad Gita stuff might come in, and we start teaching this cultural stuff. But that's where we have 36 people running a meeting. And then after that, we have 196. And then after that, we have 120. So one meeting can engage 120 people in a deep, profound way where they're not just going to zone out and let the privileged, pretty people keep talking or the wealthy talk. And people just feel insignificant. They tune out. They're like, I'll participate, but I'll give you like 20%. This is how you get like 80% from people. And then also have this religious issue addressed, the legal issues addressed, the scaling issues addressed, and the climate ignorance issue addressed, all with one meeting structure. So I'm very excited. I think this is the solution. And if we had any funding or anybody wants to learn this and come into these training sessions, we're more than willing to train. I do them for free. But the funding, if we can fund the Nigerians and the Pakistanis and the Kenyans and the Indian, East Indians and the Nepalese, they're the ones that are basically helping us do this rapid agile development every 12 hours. We do a test and we just keep learning. So we're learning about, I would probably say probably 200% faster than normal organizations. And I hope climate healers can be a part of it. So that's my update. 2 minutes over. Thank you for letting me share my screen. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are a number of questions and comments in the chat, and I would encourage you to engage there. And also,
I was on my share screen, so I didn't see any of it.
Yeah, and also give people a chance to communicate with you, let them know how to communicate with you. Because we do have our next presentation. Amy is here and she's ready to go.
Okay, I'll put my email in the chat.
So can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep, you bet.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and bring Amy up.
Hey everybody. So you can hear me correct well enough, huh? Or give me a thumbs up, Allison, if you can.
I hear you perfectly.
Perfect.
Yes.
Just double check. Great.
So nice to see you. Okay.
Nice to see you again, and nice to see some familiar faces again. Hello, everyone. So let me just go ahead and grab my presentation. I've got a few slides to share.
Yeah, and if you want to say a few words about who you are and just do a brief overview of what you're doing, then you can do the update after that. Great. Okay.
That sounds good.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to open up my slides. I'll take a moment here. Let me just do that. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. I'll share that in just a moment, but I'll start off with, with just introducing myself. So my name's Amy Bing-Peterson. I am a Food Revolution Network certified plant-based health coach. So I'm currently located in the Netherlands, but I'm from the United States originally. And at the previous VCOP, I gave just a real quick pitch about what I'm working on, which is plant-based health coaching for what I call change makers. So these could be activists, it could be entrepreneurs, so anybody who is working in the vegan or plant-based sphere to make that movement. So before I start sharing any slides or anything, I just wanted to share a little bit more about what motivated me to start doing this in the first place. I think I mentioned it briefly in my pitch, but I'm just really grateful to be here today with all of you, healthy and feeling fit and energetic. But that definitely wasn't always the case. So a few years ago, I suffered a really intense burnout. So everything kind of came together at once. I had become a new mom. My daughter was born in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. I had a new job. I'd lost my old job. I had become vegan as well in the process. About when my daughter was about 6 months old, I became vegan quite suddenly, really making that emotional shift and also the practical shifts in my life. And I just started to notice that the old mechanisms that had been serving me for quite a while, no longer served me anymore. And I started to get symptoms, and I didn't really notice it until I came very close to crashing. And right before I really crashed, I just noticed that my emotions became very amplified. I couldn't think straight anymore. There was an upcoming deadline at work, and I just couldn't. It just felt so overwhelming. I remember crying 4 times in one day. And feeling this fury towards my colleagues, just really out of proportion, the emotions that I was having. But these were all signs that it was just not going well with me. And it wasn't until I really stopped and, I called in sick to work finally. Thankfully, I had a very understanding manager at the time, that I could really feel how exhausted I was and how tired I was. So, and that's when I started to notice that I really needed, there were days that I didn't even get up, that I was so tired that I just laid on the couch the whole day. I had incredible muscle aches. I started to feel depressive feelings. And the worst part was, it's one thing to not be able to care for yourself, but I wasn't able to care for my daughter, who was a toddler at the time. And at my very lowest point, I even had thoughts of, what if it would be better if I wasn't even here? So, I mean, sometimes we talk about burnout as sometimes, a thing you go take a break and it's, you're better, but it can take on average 1 to 3 years to recover once you hit that point. And it took me about 3 years to really recover. But as part of my recovery, I'm actually glad it happened, because it brought me onto this new path and a new type of work and a new way to serve in this movement. And I'm discovering that there's a lot to gain here. It doesn't have to be specifically burnout, but the health and wellness of those who are involved in this movement is essential. It's our foundation. And I learned a really beautiful definition of veganism from psychologist Claire Mann. She said veganism is a practice of loving kindness towards yourself, towards other beings, and towards ecosystems. And so when she said that, I realized, wow, that's the work I'm doing. The work is the towards yourself part of veganism. So that's what we're going to explore today. So give me a moment just to grab my presentation. Here we go. I'm going to share this with you. And I'm going to go ahead. And I think you can give me a thumbs up. Allison, give me a thumbs up. You can see the presentation. I think I'm at the beginning here. 1 sec, I will go back to the beginning. Just 1 moment. Apologies for that. I will go back to the first slide. Okay, here we go. There we go. I will, just 1 moment. I will share again, and we'll start from the first slide. That will be helpful. Okay. Here we go. All right, there we go. Now that at the beginning. Allison, can you give me a thumbs up if you see my my slides? I think we have, yeah, good. Thank you so much. All right, so I titled my presentation today, From Burnout to Brilliance, Sustaining Compassionate Change Makers from the Inside Out, because I really think this is the foundation that we need in order to be able to function and to do the things we are gifted in doing. So what can you expect from my presentation today? I'm just going to give you an update about what challenges I'm noticing. So what am I noticing in the people I've coached so far, in the people I've spoken to about these types of things, also in the current certification training. I'm doing a 2nd certification as a coach. What are some of the things that I'm learning that I'm noticing apply to the movement? Then I'll take you through 3 keys that I think are really essential for this, practicing veganism inwardly, and what that means for coaching. Actually, coaching to me is actually an expression of veganism in a way. It's sort of a practice of loving kindness. So what do I mean by that? I'll explain that a bit. Then I'll share one client's story just to kind of give you a bit more of a practical sense of what that might look like for someone. Of course, the identity is private, but just to have an idea. And at the end, I'll also reach out to you, have an opportunity to connect with me if you like. I'll give you a way that you can even plan in a call with me after this today, if that works, if you're thinking it might be relevant for you or someone you know or your organization. I'll do that at the end. So if that's okay for you guys, give me some thumbs up and your little digital thumbs up. Okay, great. All right. Okay. Okay. So what challenges am I noticing? Among those I've met recently, change makers, and those I've been coaching, I'm noticing a variety of different challenges. Fatigue, exhaustion, burnout, not necessarily burnout at the moment, but a lot of people have a burnout in their past. Mental health challenges like anxiety, depression. There's a real sense of isolation and difficulty connecting with others. A lot of people are showing maybe like a paralysis or overwhelm, maybe a fear of speaking openly. I've also noticed a lack of awareness around nutrition, which I think is a really interesting opportunity for improving our wellness. We might be eating plant-based, but is it whole foods and balanced? Also just guilt in regards to relaxation, downtime, and taking rest, which is a huge part of our well-being. So these are some of the themes I'm noticing popping up so far in the people I've been interacting with. So moving to the first key that is really important for this. This is a concept that comes from psychology. I learned it in my initial training with Food Revolution Network. It's called the Wheel of Wellness. And I'm just going to give you guys a brief overview of this. Some of you may have already seen this before if you've been to any of the other things I've spoken at. So this is it's a model to help us look at our health and well-being in a more holistic way. We tend to think of health as maybe the physical health or the mental health, but there are so many other areas that are intertwined. Our relationships, our recreation, there's the downtime, right? Huge importance in our well-being. Our finances, are we resourced to be able to do the things we need to do and want to do? Our career, and career here doesn't necessarily have to be paid work. It could be the volunteer work we're doing or, unpaid work like parenting or caregiving, or taking care of a domestic environment. I definitely consider that work as well. Our spirituality, our connection to God or a higher power or whatever you want to call it. Our home environment. So I had a client last year, for example, who was trying to make new recipes and discovered along the way through coaching that the food was not her challenge. It was her home environment. She was living in a very hostile environment. And she realized through coaching that she needed to move in order to support her, in order to be able to cook the things she wanted to cook. So all of these are really, really key. And with regards to physical health, I do want to name that opportunity with nutrition that I have been noticing. I'm as excited as I am to see so many new plant-based and vegan options, in the supermarkets. I heard earlier a while ago about, there are more plant-based milks, than dairy milks. Wonderful, as far as animal rights go, things like that. For our health, I do want to mention, the importance of whole plant-based foods, how important that is. And I think many of us here might already be, putting that into practice. But I think I had this assumption when I first started doing this work that, if they're vegan, they already know about this. But I'm actually discovering that a lot of people are unaware of the research around nutrition and how important it is to eat so many vegetables a day and things like that. It's quite surprising. And they rely a lot on, maybe more convenient, like junk food options or things like that. And it's, you don't necessarily have to be a purist in this, that you never have, a bag of chips or something, but but I'm noticing that if, it's about what you do in a daily routine or what you do regularly. And I think there's a lot of space to win something there. And there is a lot of research too with, for example, the consumption of highly processed foods and mental health challenges, for example, depression, that does have a direct impact on our mental well-being. So not just our physical well-being. So I just wanted to name that as something I'm noticing as interesting as an opportunity. So if you like, if you feel like posting in the chats, just to kind of share a bit, if you like, for yourself. So which area of this wheel feels most fulfilled for you at this time? And which area might feel like it needs some more attention or it feels a bit unfulfilled? And yeah, just kind of wondering if I can, difficult for me to see the chat while I'm doing this. See if I can also see the chat while I'm presenting as well. Oh. I don't know if I can easily see the chat while I'm doing this, but we'll take a look at it later. So, all right, just to kind of think about it for yourself, what areas maybe there's an opportunity somewhere, an opportunity you haven't thought about before. Okay, so the second key, this might sound obvious, but it's to include yourself in your practice of loving kindness, to include yourself in your practice of veganism. And I'm noticing that a lot of us might be really dedicated to our missions and really focused on the needs of others, but we tend to forget ourselves. So this is a really important one. That's part of what led up to my burnout. Was I was, really unaware of many of my own basic needs. I didn't, that's something I really had to learn, is to notice them, to express them, and then to take action to actually fulfill them. So what do I mean by this expressing loving kindness to yourself in the context of coaching? So the ways that, some of the ways in general that I'm doing this in coaching is, well, first of all, to learn to recognize and express our needs and take imperfect action to fulfill them. I notice in almost every session I have with someone, it's recognizing those needs and feelings, right? And sometimes I might be the first person who actually names someone's basic need that they hadn't seen before. So this is actually a skill and a capacity that we can develop. And that with almost everyone I've been coaching, it's something that's developed along the way to learn to recognize these needs. And needs can be anything from, basic physical needs. If you think of, for example, the psychological model Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have your safety, for example, at the bottom. You have physical needs like water, food, but also, for example, social connection, and going more towards the top, self-actualization. But the list of needs is very, very long, and our needs are changing, throughout different seasons of our lives. What's also something that's really essential to coaching, and then I really find a part of veganism, is that we bring our assumptions, our unconscious inner barriers, and our fixed meaning making into light. This is so key, because if we are operating from, for example, an assumption of I am unsafe, for example, or I'm not welcome because I'm vegan, for example, that's one that I have felt personally. And I'm starting to notice it in many others. I am not welcome here, or I'm not, they're not ready. They don't want to hear what I have to say. These are all assumptions and internal barriers that we carry around with us. And I believe they have, it's like they have the intention to try to keep us safe, maybe protect us from rejection or, things like that. It's kind of like an unhandy friend trying to help you out, who in the end it just creates more chaos. So the intention behind, this mechanism, let's respect the mechanism, at the same time also see it for it is limiting, and it is might be resulting in, damaging our relationships or our well-being. Or if, for example, if there's one that I've discovered for myself recently, that's a really big one. And the famous coach Tony Robbins says that pretty much everybody has this one to some degree, is I'm not enough. I am not enough. If I'm operating out of this type of belief, unconscious belief of I'm not enough, I'm going to be doing things, creating evidence for that, and operating in a way that's going to keep that going. One of the ways that I have, for example, done that in my life is that when I received criticism in the past, I took it personally. Because, I'm not enough and I can't take criticism, right? So whereas there might be, there are, more or less effective ways to deliver criticism, but criticism is really important information. Maybe not even about you, but maybe about the other person. There's something in there. There's something being communicated, even if it's being communicated in an unloving way. And when we take it personally, I'm feeding into this story of, oh, I'm not enough. They're criticizing me. I'm not enough. And yeah, so that and it becomes paralyzing, and then you end up in conflict. So that's one of the things that I am currently and imperfectly trying to shift for myself on how can I receive criticism, feedback in a way that from the adult part of myself that can take that. That leads me to the next one. So once we identify these inner barriers, these assumptions, these things, in for women, we call it even the inner glass ceiling, this kind of ceiling that you hit. It's really important then to connect with a deeper truth from our powerful adult selves and consciously shift into new stories and a growth mindset. So, because below these assumptions and inner barriers and beliefs, there is a much deeper truth. And from there, we can take action. So, for example, instead of saying I'm not enough, a deeper truth might be my mere existence is worthy of love. It means I don't have to do anything, and if I operate from that story, I mean, how much more powerful am I? How much more inviting am I to others? How much more am I able to connect with others? How much more am I able to express my talents? And then, so once we've gone through this, some of these shifts, we've examined the old stories, we've discovered new ones that are empowering, we've connected with this more powerful part of ourselves, then we can really start to change our behavior, develop missing skills and capacities, and create structures in our life to manifest a new reality. And it's imperfect and it's bumpy and you slide back into the old story and it's totally okay. It's kind of like a maze, it's not a straight line. But that's when we can really start to be honest with ourselves and enter into real growth and shifts. And that's what I do in coaching. So that leads me into the third key is really to ask for and receive support. And this is a really important one because these kinds of transformations are not things we tend to do on our own. Just like ecosystems thrive through interconnection, so do we. We need each other. We need resources. We are not meant to do this alone. So yeah, feel free if you want to, you can post in the chat just to kind of reflect for yourself or write it down for yourself if you like. What is one resource or form of support that would enable you to show up more as your brilliant self? And what's something it could be practical support, like I would love somebody to help watch my kids, or I could use support with a project I'm working on. I could use mentoring. I need medical support, whatever it is. There's a book I've been wanting to read that I would love to learn from, whatever that might be. Just to think about that. What's one thing that might help you a bit? And just briefly, one client that I've been working with, just to kind of illustrate what happens. So I have a client, she's a plant-based entrepreneur, and she's developed a highly effective way to deal with lipedema, which is a really painful condition that, especially affects women who tend to have, when they're overweight or obese, it can be really painful for them. And she's, through her brilliance and expertise, she developed a program to work with this through whole foods, plant-based living, which is fabulous because it works great. And she's training a lot of people and created programs and created a business around this. But of course, as her business grew, the pressure grew on her as well. So through coaching, she's been able to shift, to really start to guard her boundaries more, to identify her needs more. And because her company and her success and her impact is so linked to her own well-being, she's now been able to move to the next phase of her business by focusing on her own wellness first. And she's now moving into to a more international audience, which is really exciting. So what I've seen is that coaching can be a highly effective way to unlock the potential of change makers who are already motivated, right, to do these incredible things, but might be stuck in these old stories and old ways of doing things. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, either for yourself or for an organization, or that you're working with, please, you can scan this if you like. I'll also post a link in the chat here in a moment to plan in a follow-up call with me. So I've opened up a few extra slots the next few days for you guys. So feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to speak with you on this. Yeah. So thank you. Here we go. And I'll post this, I'll post my contact details in the link in the chat in just a moment. All right. And I think we have about 5 minutes left for questions, if there are any. So
Yes, we do. We have 5 minutes for questions. So if you'll stop sharing, then people can raise their hands. Maybe you'll put your contact information in the chat.
yeah, I'll post that in there.
Perfect. Perfect.
Oh.
So yes, the floor is open. Please raise your hands. I see Mark has his hand up. Mark, can you come on screen?
You bet.
Perfect. Okay, I will spotlight you so we can see you. There we go.
Here we go.
I love that you mentioned Tony, because he's been on a spree across tons of like young people, YouTube channels. He's really trying to get out there.
Yeah.
But he was one of the guys, like, I don't know if you know him or if you have a way to take your program and get him on board with us, because he's the world's biggest life coaching wellness coach. If he got onto climate healers, that'd be great. But also, surprisingly, one of the biggest alarm bells for the AI thing was from him. So in his latest summits that I went to, he was telling everybody, he said, if you are not on this AI thing in the next 3 months, you're going to get left behind. And he says, if you guys have a chance to watch The Diary of a CEO, Tony was just on there, and he said nobody's prepared for what's coming. And he, as a life coach, he says he knows what's going to happen to them. They're going to shut down a whole bunch of things. So that's where I started getting worried about, yeah, we need to address the mental health crisis with the vegan, with the AI. It all has to be sort of a package. So I'm wondering if that's what you're thinking, and if you think that might be a good direction to go.
I don't know what's going to happen, but what I do know is that the coaching industry as a whole is growing really rapidly. And one of the reasons I've heard to explain this is because we live in such complex times. So because it's really challenging. So it's, I mean, and if you have a good, well-trained coach, it can be life-changing. It really can. I've experienced this myself. I mean, if I had to pick one person who really helped me shift out of my burnout, it was a good coach, actually. It wasn't even my doctor. It was a coach, because she helped me to look at those internal mechanisms and how I was dealing with the world. I was operating from old stories, I guess kind of the younger part, the inner child part, which, had done her best, so far, but she can only do so much. So the cool thing is all of us have this older part, right? Or I would say most of us have this older part that has adult capabilities and can deal with really hard things. And that's what I try to do in coaching, is I really try to, often people are dealing with this old version of themselves, and it's not about their performance. They're changing identities. They're shifting into a new version of themselves in order to be able to deal with whatever's coming or whatever they is, and then they can really, it's kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It's like this, they're still a caterpillar when they come in, and then they're like go into the cocoon, which is the coaching relationship, and then, butterfly comes out. So that's, I think coaching can be a really effective way to help deal with these incredible challenges and deal with uncertainty. I think that's a big one too. Yeah. Thanks for your question, Mark. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Oh, I see Brittany has a question as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask your question, Brittany.
Oh, I don't see her anymore. Let's see.
Brittany, are you there?
Oh, yeah.
Here. Go ahead. Do you want to ask your question? You're muted.
Yeah,
there
for
you
some
are.
reason it was muted or something. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I was wondering if there's going to be some centralization where there's going to be some automating place that some people are going to be able to go to where they have their issues and then they can get it worked out there. I kind of talked to Mark about flow charts. So I was thinking something like that. There's also ideas of AI. Mark talks a lot about that too.
There is a thing called AI coaching. Yeah. AI coaching exists. Yeah. No, I can speak to that just for a little. I'm not an expert in this, but what I have heard so far, I mean, what I can see, if you're looking to have something just broken down into steps, like, hey, I want to run a marathon, can you, come up with a a plan for me. I can definitely do something like that, like, come up with a suggestion for an exercise routine or things like that. But the type of work that I'm doing really requires the presence of a human being, because it's not just about the contents, it's about the presence. It's almost like an energetic shift that we're making, or maybe it is an energetic shift. Actually the mere presence and being witnessed by someone is in and of itself already transformative. And some of the people that I've worked with have told me, this is the first time that I felt heard. Isn't that like incredible? Like that somebody witnesses me as I am without judgment. That in itself is already huge and can create shifts. And that's something that AI, as far as I'm aware, cannot do. So it can be informational, and sure, that it can be really helpful as a tool, but it does not replace the presence of a human on that energetic level. And it doesn't listen in the same way. Obviously, as a coach, I'm listening for certain things, knowing, what somebody isn't able to say yet. I know that if I ask them, what do you want? And they don't know how to say that yet, it's because they're probably trying to express something that doesn't yet exist, right? That they don't even know how to put into words. And that's okay. Yeah. So that's what they discover. Yeah. People are trying to self-actualize, right? They're really trying to shift into a new way of being, not just perform something. So I think that's the difference. And to me, it is actually a practice of veganism doing this. Helping somebody helping somebody transform. I think this is pretty cool. So yeah, anyway, but I see we're over time, so all right.
I hope that we get to see you again for the next VCOP, that you can give us another update.
Yeah, I'd be very, very happy to. Yes.
Yes. And again, I would encourage you to put your contact information in the chat.
Oh,
and we do have
another.
We're going to be playing our closing song, during which time the chat will be open and people can go back and forth with you during that time. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us and for giving us your project update.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay.
The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air. Every block of butter is a forest repair. It's It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire. Put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire. Ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite, sharing love in the meta zone, lighting the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire.